This is your facilitator, Edwin Nyakan, and today we are going to look at our second topic, that is R Markdown. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, we ask you to subscribe, hit that button, click the notification button so that whenever we upload new videos, you will be the first one to know. Welcome to our class. Today we are going to look at Introduction to R Markdown. In this tutorial, we will provide an introduction to R Markdown. R Markdown is an amazing framework for creating full reproducible report while leveraging the power of R programming language. The beauty of R Markdown is that you can write codes, you can perform analysis, and you can view your output. It can then be rendered into a document that can be shared with your audience. R Markdown has 6 important parts. One is the YAML section. We have the output section. We have the code section. So I am going to look at all those sections in detail. So before you start your R Markdown, you need to have your title section. And to get your title section, you do this. You go to your file, come to new, go to the script, come to R Markdown. When you click on R Markdown, a pop-up will appear, and on the pop-up section, you'll write the name of your project. For our case, we are going to do Introduction to R Markdown. We'll type here, Introduction to R Markdown. Once you've typed the title, you type your name, the date. Then by default, it will select for you an HTML output, because we want to use HTML since it is easy to use. We will not use PDF or Word because they'll require other packages that we have to install in our machine. Once you've typed your title, you'll click OK. When you click OK, you'll have your title set up. It will have the title, the author, that is you, the date when the document was generated, then the output. Below the output, you'll have the type of document that you want to visualize. Then you will add TOC. TOC stands for Table of Content. So we want to see also our table of content, and here we will say it is true. We want code folding function to be activated. It can be none, show, and for our case, we will say show. Once you've finished, you end your YAML section with 3 dashes. You can see here there's the first dash, the second one, and the third. Once you have this, then you'll set up the nitty section. The nitty section, this is where the output will be rendered, the type of output you will have. So this is the executable, and we start with the backticks. The 3 backticks, when you look at your when you look at your keyboard, it is below the escape button. You have the backticks. On these backticks, you select 3 backticks, then curly bracket, open the curly bracket, then you say R setup include equals to false. This particular syntax, we are instructing R that this section of execution should not be shown in our final report. And that's why we are saying we want to knit it, we want to render it, we want to execute it. And when we execute it, we don't want to see this execution code. Then you come the options, underscore chunk, $ set. Then we are setting the warning to be equals to false. So when there is a warning, it should not appear in our final document. Also, if there's a message that is related to this kind of warning, we are also telling it should not appear in our output. So all these function here is used to hide the rendering syntax. So this syntax here will not be seen. Once you've set up your R Markdown, the next thing, we need to load the libraries. And for us to load the libraries, what do? We start with the backticks again, 3 backticks. So then we open curly brackets, then we tell R that we are going to load our libraries. And here you say R load libraries. And then you call the libraries that you have. If you haven't installed the libraries in your R window, you go to package, on your plot and other windows, package, then you click on install. If you then once you've clicked on the install, you type the package that you want to install and you click install button. It will take some time to install, but for our case, we had already installed the tidyverse, so there is no need. So you come here and say that, now, which packages will we use during this class? We will use library called tidyverse, and I mentioned earlier, tidyverse is used to tidy our data. We'll also use the package initry because package initry has the data set that we want to use during this class. Once you've loaded your libraries, also we want to load our data set. And the data set that we are loading, we are this syntax 20, will tell R that create for me a package called empty cars. And then inside this package empty cars, I want you to store a data set that is from nitry package that is also called empty cars. So you see, we are just using the same name, but we can use a different name. We can say data, create for me an object called data, and inside this object, I want you to store for me a package called empty cars. So the first name doesn't matter. What matters is the second name, because this package empty cars is inside the nitry. But for this particular class, we are going to use the same name. Then you execute. You can execute if you want to see if it's working. You execute only this current chunk, this code. We call them chunks, or in other words, you can say they are codes. Once you are done, you end your chunk with backticks. Again, you use 3 backticks. For our case here, you see we've line code 21. We've used the first backtick, the second, and the third backtick. So we ensure that we use 3 backticks. Then you execute this current chunk, and you see that it has executed successfully, because when you go to your environment window, there's an object that has been created, and this object is called empty cars with 32 observation of 11 variables. So that means it has been executed. Once you've closed your chunk, the next section is for a text. And here you can type anything, because here we use it mostly for description. We are describing our work. We are describing what you are doing, so that those people who are not familiar with this kind of report, they'll be able to understand what is being done here. And here we are saying that this tutorial will provide introduction to R Markdown. This is an amazing framework for creating full reproducible reports while leveraging the power of the R programming language. So this statement here will appear on our output window. So we have, then also you can add a link, maybe for a cheat sheet, the way we've added a link for a cheat sheet, and it will also appear. So all these sections that you're seeing up to script 28, they are called text. So this is a text section, and text section is for describing our data. Then we have the YAML header, and you can see we've started the YAML header with 2 multiplication signs. There are 2 multiplication signs, and also at the end we have also 2 multiplication signs. What these signs does is they highlight, they make YAML header to be bold. That is, they draw you closer to the YAML header. You like to see how will it look like in our report. So in a short while, I'll show you how it will look like. At the end, then also the code chunks. We've just covered the code chunks up there, and you see the code chunk also will be in bold. Then also text will also be in bold, because we've used 2 multiplication signs at the beginning as well as at the end. Then you scroll down, you could include your text. Now, how do you bolden your work? How do you customize your work? How do you format your text? For you, if you want to bold, you start your text with 2 asterisk signs, then you end it with 2 asterisk signs. Alternatively, you can bolden your work by using 2 underscore. For example, these are 2 underscore. You say you start with underscore, you have 2 underscores, 2 underscores at the beginning, and also 2 underscores at the end. When you want to italize, to make them italic, if you want your text to be italic, again, you start with 1 multiplication sign and end with another multiplication sign. Alternatively, you can use 1 underscore sign and also end with 1 underscore sign. Your supervisor might ask you to include a superscript or a subscript. For you to use a superscript, you use this sign here. It's more or less like an inverted greater than sign. An inverted greater than sign at the beginning, and also another inverted greater than sign at the end. For the subscript, we do what? We use the tilde sign. Tilde sign is found under escape button on your keyboard. So what you just need to do, you press shift and then you hit the tilde sign that is below your escape button. Then you start with a 1 tilde sign at the beginning and another tilde sign at the end. If you want to strike through, what do? You use 2 tilde signs. You use 2 tilde signs at the beginning as well as at the end. So tilde sign, again, as I mentioned earlier, it is directly above the escape button. If you want to embed a link, for example, you are doing a research, and in your research you have references, R Markdown allows you to embed a link. So you'll use the function open square bracket, type link, close square bracket, open bracket, type the address, type your web address inside the bracket, then close it with another bracket. So these will allow you to embed a link. If you want to create a white space, a blank space, or we call it sections in your R Markdown, what do? You come here, you start with greater than sign, then use the function BR, then you close it. You close it with greater than sign. You start with the less than sign, then type BR and close it with less than sign. So that is how you create a blank space or you create a section in your R Markdown. If you have a quote, maybe you've gone to the field and you've interviewed somebody and they've said something pleasant about your project. If you want to put a quote, you use the greater than sign to put a quote. So this will be a block quotation from your beneficiary, from the person that you are interviewing. They'll be there. Their quotes, you can make them appear there. The next bit, we look at how to add titles, or we call them headers, and we add headers using the function hash button. So the lesser the number of hash button, the bigger the header. The bigger the header. If you have only 1 hash button, you see that the header will be bigger. If you have 2 hash buttons, then it will be the second biggest header. The third one will be the third biggest header. The fourth will be the fourth biggest header. If you go to the fifth will be the fifth biggest header. Then anything above 5 hash buttons, then it will be the smallest header. And that smallest header will be even smaller than the text. We can also embed an equation in the line. If you want to embed an equation in the line, you can use this function. And for this particular class, we are not going to cover equations in details, because it's just a waste of time, because you don't need to write those equations offhand. You can use cheat sheet to write any equation that you want to write. So for that reason, we'll just keep it. Then I mentioned you can add a text, the way we've added this text. Then we also have inline codes. If you want to put a value inside the line, you just use one backtick, then you say R, you do your mean. We calculate mean of hose pipe for these vehicles. So we are saying R till one backtick, then the R for R Markdown. Then here you have the function for mean, because we want to calculate mean, and then the data type, the data set, and the $sign to tell us which quantitative variables we want to compute its mean. We would have just indicated the mean here by writing, let's say maybe a number 15, but that will change, will keep on changing. So we want something that is a bit automated. So once you've written this particular inline code, you also close it with a tilde. As I mentioned earlier, a new R chunk can be created by enclosing code by a pair of tildes. You see here we have 3 tildes. So when you're ending a chunk, you end it with 3 tildes. When you are ending an inline code, you end it, you start with 1 backticks, and also you end it with 1 backticks. But a chunk, you end it with 3 backticks. How do you list? In R? You use this function here, multiplication sign. So every time you start a new line, you indicate an ordered list. So this one will list it as 1. Then you use also, this one will give us like a point. You'll see in the report what we are discussing. It will give us as a point. Then again here we have another multiplication sign. So it will list them in this particular order. Then you can also list them as you just write 1 dot, then space, ordered list. It will write for you 1 dot, then the same as number 2 dot, item 2, then it will list them in that particular order. You can also create a table, but here I want to skip that section. Is not important. This is the most important section. In our introduction, we looked at how do you view data in R, and you use the function head. So this is another chunk. For you to use this chunk, you must start with 3 backticks, then curly brackets. Inside the curly brackets, you write an R, then you come and write here header, open bracket, the data frame that you are working with, which is empty cars, and you close the bracket. Then you end your chunk using a backticks. So we have 3 backticks. That's how we end our chunk. Then the next one, we introduce another package that is under Nitri, and we use it for formatting tables. So kable enable us to format tables. So this is just the same. We've just added in front of header, we've added kable function to format this particular table. And just to say, a great degree of customizability is available through the Nitri package, along with packages like Cable, Panda, and Format Table. So if you want to learn more about customization, I would welcome you to learn a little bit about Nitri package, because we use it for customization. You can use Cable Extra. You can also use the Pandas and Format Table functionality. And that's all about creating our R Markdown. So how do you execute your R Markdown? You go to Nitri here, you click on it, and you let it run. As you can see, it is running, and we have our output. So this section, we refer to it as YAML section. And YAML section if I can minimize this screen, I can make it a bit smaller. So I can walk you through. Then also I minimize our R. Can minimize our R. Then I want to walk you through section by section, so that you can see, appreciate the beauty of R Markdown. So everything has been consolidated into one document. Everything we've consolidated into one document. That is the title, the code, the syntax, the text, as well as the output. So this section here that I've highlighted is called the YAML section. And the YAML section in our output entails introduction to R Markdown, which is our title, the author, Edwin Nyakan, the date, and then the TOC. You can see our table of content. Our table of content is also here. Then we've said code folding show. So code folding is this button here that shows show all or hide all. So you can decide to hide all the codes that are not visible in your document, or you can decide to show all the codes. Then this section here, it has been hidden because we said that do not include it in our report. So this one is the area that we execute or we knit or render. So if you want your document to be generated, this section here is capable of that kind of function. Then here we started with our first chunk, and this chunk you can see it on our document, script 16 to script 20. It is on our document here. You can see there's a lab package we are loading, tidyverse, Netry, and also we are creating an object from a data frame called empty cars, and you can hide it. So you see it is hidden, it's not there. Then the other section that we looked at is the text section. You can see here we have our text section, and it's also in our report. And in our report, we've included a link. So this link contains R Markdown cheat sheet. When you click on it, you'll see that it will take you to that cheat sheet. Then this addition that we did from script 18, you see that we can divide this content into 3 categories. Also, we have it here in our document. As you can see, our document also contains those descriptions that are inside our R Markdown. Then we looked at how do you customize text. If you want it bolden, you see it is bold text, because we've started with 2 asterisks, or we can say multiplication signs, then ends with another 2 multiplication signs. Alternatively, you can use 2 underscores, then you end with 2 underscores. If you want to italize, if you want your text to be italic, you use 1 asterisk sign, or we call it a multiplication sign, then you end with 1 multiplication sign. Alternatively, you can use 1 underscore, then you end also with 1 underscore. And you see here, our text here has been italicized. To include a superscript, you use inverted less than sign, and you see here our inverted greater than sign here. We have a superscript of 2, and also a subscript, you use a tilde. Tilde is below the escape button. If you want to strike through, that is a line that passes through your text, you use 2 tildes. 2 tildes at the beginning and 2 tildes at the end. Then also we've embedded a link. When you click on this link, it will take you, sorry, I do not have internet, but it should take you to this URL, and you'll be able to see what is there. Then the next bit, we've looked at how do you put a quotation. If you want to put a a section in your report, if you want to add a section in your report, and here we've created a blank white space. So this blank white space has been created by this syntax here, that is greater than, you start with less than, BR greater than. It was responsible for creating sections. So we are going to the new section. If you want to add quotation, and you see there is an highlight here. So here you can put your quote, and our quote for today is block quotation, If you want to add a faint horizontal line, you see here there's a faint horizontal line, this line here, you use 3 asterisks. You use 3 asterisks or 3 multiplication signs, and you'll be able to create this faint horizontal line in your document. Then we looked at how to create headers, in our document, and you can see here this is a single hash button. So this single hash button will give you the biggest header. 2 hash buttons, it will give you the second biggest header, then the third, the fourth, the fifth. Then when you come to the 6th, it will be even smaller than your text. So rarely do we use the 6th, but if you want to emphasize, use the 6th. Then this formula, this equation line was created using this particular function. Then I want to show you the inline code, how to generate the inline code. So when you come here in this section that I've highlighted on our R Markdown, you can see there is an inline code that we've written. We started with a single backtick R, then space mean, then we call the data and the variable. And the value of that particular code, it is written here as 146.6875, as 0.6875, the one that I've highlighted on our right. If you want to put an add list, you want to list your text, you use this function here. Here you use this function, 1 asterisk sign, and it will be able to list for you the same as with your order sign. I want us to rush to this section here of viewing our data. That is part of the visualization that we've done. So this syntax here, you can see these 2 tables, code script 91 and script 95, they serve the same purpose. They enable us to view the first 6 items in our data set. But the difference now is in the formatting. As you can see, if you use head empty cars, you have the first table, which is not aesthetic compared to when you use cable, then in bracket head, in bracket empty cars, then close the bracket, you get this aesthetic presentation. If I can zoom it out, when you compare the 2 tables, the first table here, this is our first table that I've highlighted. When you compare it with our second table here, you find that the second table is more appealing to the eye, is more presentable, and you will surprise your supervisor. A great degree of customization is available through Nitri package, along with packages like Cable Extra, Panda, and Formatable Table. I want us to look at a few, one of the presentation before we come to the end of this class. I want us to look at the presentation about R Markdown and what is an R Markdown. So we started from reverse. We're going now to go to the slideshow. So that was about how to do your presentation. So the topic for today was that, and this course was designed to teach you how to use R Markdown to create dynamic and reproducible report, the way we've just seen how to create reproducible reports. The course outline, what we've covered, we've looked at how to install R, the parts of R, applicability of R.
Paul, welcome to our R class. Kindly we urge you to subscribe, so that whenever we upload a new video, you'll be among the first people to watch. Thank you, and please don't forget to subscribe.